Colombians returned to the polls Sunday for a presidential runoff between a far-right firebrand who calls himself the Tiger and a left-wing senator from the ruling party, in a contest that reflects sharply different visions for the country and could redefine Bogotá's relationship with the United States. Sunday's election comes after the strong showing by the far-right outsider Abelardo de la Espriella in the first round of voting in May, where he won 43.74% of the vote. The leftist candidate Iván Cepeda from ruling Historic Pact coalition, who is backed by Colombian President Gustavo Petro, came in second place with just under 41% of the ballots.
Al Jazeera journalist Ahmed Wisher was killed on Saturday in Gaza's Burej refugee camp weeks after his brother Mohammed Wisher, who also worked for the Doha-based network, was killed in a deliberate Israeli shelling on his car. Ahmed, in his mid-20s, is the 12th Al Jazeera journalist to have been killed by Israel in Gaza, which has become the deadliest place for journalists in the world. At least 260 Palestinian journalists have been killed since Israel launched war in October 2023, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists.
At least 4 people have been killed in Ukrainian drone attacks on Crimea that have hit an oil depot and fuel facilities that Russia uses to supply its forces. Russian-installed authorities say Crimea's Moscow-installed leader, Sergei Aksyonov, said at least 28 people were wounded in the attacks overnight into Sunday.
The 2026 World Cup will have 13 different kickoff times. You can use the Al Jazeera Sport widget to find out exactly when your team is playing in your local watch. FIFA World Cup 2026 Group J match. Where? Dallas Stadium, Dallas, Texas. When? Monday 12 p.m. local time, 17 Gene How to Follow. How Follow will have all the build-up on Al Jazeera Sport from 14 Gene in advance of our live text commentary stream. Defence Minister Khawaja Mohammed Atsif has called for ending the Vigo Dala culture in the National Assembly. Speaking during the Assembly session, he said that parliamentary traditions and decorum must be strictly observed and that any breach of rules in the Parliament House is unacceptable. He stressed that lawmakers should be properly briefed on parliamentary conduct and regulations to ensure order inside the House.
United States and Iranian delegations are gearing up for high-level technical talks slated to be held in Switzerland, as a deal signed on Thursday between Tehran and Washington is strained by continued Israeli attacks on Lebanon. Iran says the deal includes a ceasefire in Lebanon and that the Israeli attacks are a violation of the agreement. Reigning European champion Spain, whose World Cup campaign got off to a shaky start, face Saudi Arabia in the headline event of the tournament's 11th day. Iran face Belgium in Sunday's second match as travel restrictions continue to disrupt the Middle East team's rest and recovery during the month-long global showpiece.
Colombians are heading to the polls to choose their next president in a runoff election, pitting a leftist heir to the country's progressive government against a far-right outsider promising a crackdown on crime. The vote takes place on Sunday, when more than 41 million eligible voters will decide between lawmaker Iván Cepeda and criminal defense lawyer Abelardo de la Espriella, after the pair emerged from a field of 11 candidates in a first-round vote on May 31.
Thousands of protesters have marched through Albania's capital, Tirana, in one of the largest rallies yet against a luxury resort project linked to United States President Donald Trump that has become a lightning rod for anger over alleged corruption. Since late May, demonstrators have gathered every evening to oppose the planned construction of Ivanka and her daughter Ivanka and her husband Jared Kushner, a protected stretch, a protected stretch of the Balkan country's coast. The National Disaster Management Authority, NDMA, has issued a nationwide weather alert, warning that thunderstorms, strong winds, heavy rainfall, urban flooding and glacier-related flood risks could the next 12 to 24 hours. According to the NDMA's National Emergencies Operations Centre, NEOC, The forecast weather pattern is consistent with the seasonal outlook issued 3 to 4 months ago. Pakistan is targeting the training and deployment of 300,000 to 400 zoos and workers for projects linked to the FIFA World Cup 2034 as part of a broader strategy to expand overseas employment opportunities and strengthen the country's position in international labour markets. According to official documents available with Wealth Pakistan, workforce planning is being aligned with anticipated demand arising from the FIFA World Cup 2034, with trained Pakistani workers expected to support infrastructure development, aviation, tourism and related service sectors between 2026 and 2034.
United States Vice President J.D. Vance has arrived in Switzerland for talks with Iran days after they signed a memorandum of understanding aimed at ending the US-Israel war on Iran, which had sent oil prices soaring above $100 per barrel and rattled international markets. The latest round of talks, mediated by Pakistan and Qatar, is scheduled on Sunday, as Israel has intensified attacks on Lebanon, killing dozens of people on Saturday.
United States Vice President J.D. Vance has arrived in Switzerland for talks with Iranian officials on implementing the interim deal to end the US war with Iran. The US and Iran earlier this week agreed to a 60-fire extension for the negotiations. But Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps on Saturday announced the closure of the Strait of Hormuz in response to Israeli attacks in Lebanon, although the US military said commercial vessels kept operating.
PPP Chairman Bilawal Bhutto Zardari on Sunday announced advocate Amjad Hussain as the party's candidate for the post of Gilgit-Baltistan Chief Minister. The announcement came a day after the PPP, which emerged as the leading party during the recent general elections, announced it would form a government in GB with the support of the PMLN.
Beneath the scorching sun in the Sindh mango belt, labourers balance on tree branches, working at a swift pace to throw the freshly picked fruit into sacks held ready by farmhands waiting below. Though mango season is well underway, far less of the fruit will be bound for the lucrative export market than usual, with an agriculturally dependent economy caught in the crosshairs of the Middle East crisis that the government has helped mediate. Japan marked the 1,000th game in the history of the World Cup with a 4 thrashing of Tunisia on Saturday to close in on a place in the last 32. Ayase Ueda scored twice, while Daichi Kamada and Junya Ito were also on target as the Asian giants joined the Netherlands on 4 points at the top of Group F.
Scottish authorities said on Saturday they charged a man in connection with attacks in Edinburgh that wounded 5 people, with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer saying the suspect appears to be motivated by anti-Muslim hatred. Police Scotland said officers had arrested a 36-year-old white Scottish man and there was no further threat to the public.
Japan marked the 1,000th match in World Cup history with a commanding 4-0 win over Tunisia in Group F on Saturday, as Ayase Ueda scored twice to send the North Africans out. Hajime Moriyasu's side, who drew 2-2 with the Netherlands in their opener, went ahead after 4 minutes when a sweeping attack ended with Keito Nakamura cutting the ball back for Daichi Kamada to score. Peshawar. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa advisor to the Chief Minister on Finance Muzammil Aslams on Saturday said the National Economic Council, NEC, was not the legal forum for authorising and cutting any provincial expenditure, as that power was vested in the National Finance Commission. Addressing the post-budget briefing at the Civil Secretariat along with Information Minister Shafi Yan, Mr Aslam said there was no legal forum for the purpose other than the NFC.
Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Chief Army Staff Field Marshal Azam Munir have arrived in Switzerland to take part in high-level negotiations aimed at pushing forward a ceasefire framework between Iran and the United States. Al Jazeera reported the talks are being held in Bergenstock, where US Vice President J.D. Vance is also expected to participate. According to Pakistan, is mediating alongside Qatar, which is expected to join Tatar, which is also expected to join the discussions.
The fate of Lebanon could determine whether the recently signed MoU between the US and Iran survives. True to form, Israel is doing all possible to ensure the nascent peace deal is destroyed before the proverbial ink dries, as it continues to mercilessly pound Lebanon. While a supposed ceasefire was announced on Friday, Israeli attacks in Lebanon continued yesterday, with a large number of casualties reported, as the Zionist state hit both the southern and eastern parts of the Arab state in apparent pursuit of its arch-foe Hezbollah.
While the budget session in the federal and provincial assemblies is in progress, some members of the two houses of Parliament have again raised the need for an independent office within Parliament to provide an unbiased analysis of the annual budget to the legislators. The argument is that if members of Parliament have to debate various aspects of the budget as informed legislators and exercise oversight on the executive's produced budget, they need support from an entity which is outside the control of the executive, so that the numbers produced by the Ministry of Finance for the budget and by the Ministry of Planning and Development for the Public Sector Development Programme can be scrutinised and independently verified before the parliamentarians provide their feedback and input during the budget debate.
Samuel Huntington is making a comeback. In his 1996 book, The Clash of Civilizations, the American political scientist deeply divided academic opinion by arguing that culture, rather than ideology, would drive post-Cold War conflicts. In 2019, the British political theorist Christopher Coker wrote that the contemporary concept of the civilizational state serves as a real-world evidence of Huntington's core thesis. According to Coker, culture, rather than ideology, has become the primary currency of international politics.
My brother was murdered for not paying an extortion payment in front of his children. Edilma Martinez Flores said at a support centre for displaced people in Bogotá. She fled her home on the outskirts of Cali in the southwest after armed criminal groups handed out leaflets ordering residents to leave or face violence. Israeli strikes in Gaza have killed at least 6 people, including an Al Jazeera cameraman and at least 1 child, according to health officials and rescuers. Al Jazeera said it strongly condemns the heinous crime of targeting and killing of its correspondent Ahmed Wisher, who was killed in a strike on a central Gaza home on Saturday.
Burning sandalwood thickens the air in a room that's so exclusive only a vanishingly small number of people are allowed to enter. This is an agiary, a Zoroastrian place of worship for India's Parsi community, where priests in white robes stoke a sacred flame around the clock and recite ancient Avestan prayers that have survived 3 millennia.
The knockout bracket in the FIFA World Cup 2026 is starting to take shape. It begins with the round of 32, which runs from June 28 to July 3.
Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has constituted a 10-member high-level committee to review controversial right-of-way (RAW) provisions in the Pakistan Telecommunication Reorganisation Amendment Bill 2026, following growing concerns from lawmakers and stakeholders over the proposed legislation. According to a notification issued by the Prime Minister's office, the committee will be chaired by the Federal Minister for Law and Justice. Its members include
Energy, PDMA and BSDI receive major allocations. 2835 BN earmarked for energy sector. Development spending exceeds 58 spec. The Balochistan Assembly on Saturday approved the province's supplementary budget of over 119 billion for the fiscal year 2025 to 26, without debate and without any cut motions being moved against the demands for grants.
Quetta. An additional district and sessions court on Saturday sentenced the father and maternal uncle of 14-year-old Pakistani-American girl Hira Anwar to life imprisonment for her murder. Additional district and sessions judge Shahid Javed announced the verdict after completing the trial and hearing arguments from both sides.